Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you.
I'm Ryan Hafer, coming from North Carolina to Atlanta for my first time, and this is my pirate port city of Block Terre. It was kind of a concept that evolved from a few small buildings trying to build unique colonial-style buildings of the Caribbean. And after I'd built a couple, I'd done a smaller layout and then kind of hatched a much larger idea for a full modular base plate system and be able to capture more things like a fort. And I was trying to do something a little bit different with a fort than just another El Dorado. The warehouse is a nice feature, and doing some of the wheel lift cranes, and it's kind of nice. I can keep adding on. So the ship is actually brand new here. That's just new at Atlanta.
I love what you've done with that. Take us through some of the details there and some of the design elements you incorporated.
So I had started a ship before, but I built it to minifigure scale, and it ended up way larger than I wanted, or I realized that it was way too big to actually transport anywhere. So some of the challenges here was going for a brick-built hull, so kind of inspired by the Pirate Creator set. After I kind of got the shape, I was modeling after a Dutch-style ship, and using some of the techniques I picked up over looking at things, building, and probably the most challenging part was tying a bunch of knots, but crochet thread worked really well for me, and learned how to do some custom sails with iron-on transfers and things like that. So slowly lay it out and then incorporate it back into the whole concept.
I love the dedication to the little details there. I think it really makes it stand out. So then as we move over to the fort here, take us through kind of how you decided the scale and what the design of this would be like.
So I had kind of the footprint of what I wanted. I put out on paper like a big sheet of, I think it's like tablecloth paper, and kind of had big boxes for where things could go. And one of the main challenges here was the towers at angles, and that was kind of one of the main features that I was trying to accomplish, is not make just square towers, and also doing it piece by piece so it can be assembled together and not just one big fort. Same kind of lesson as the ship, where I started really big and it was very difficult to move around, and scaling back the idea to smaller, more detailed sections. Yeah, this one actually had a sketch before I built anything.
There you go. Sometimes it helps to plan out a little bit beforehand. It depends, I'm sure, on what you're building.
Yes, so a lot of my better work does come from having a sketch out in front of me. Now, not like detailed stud.io or anything like that, but at least getting some idea for how I might want somebody's eyes to look through something. I'm getting better. I don't know if I'm great at it, but I think it can do a lot for, especially like layouts and things like that. To be able to use eye lines is pretty important.
One thing I love, little detail on this fort over here, is the little exposed masonry brick, which seems like a great throwback to those pieces from the 90s, the Imperial and Pirate sets that had that kind of printed look to them in a lot of those sets.
I mean, you're definitely nailing it with the color choice there. Yeah, it's kind of those classic looks. But now we have so many more part options to actually skip the printing and do more with the parts.
So that takes us into kind of the town area here itself. Let's maybe start with these buildings in the back there, and some really unique color choices throughout. So how did you decide on that?
So the yellow one is one of my favorites. The ability to have like 3 shades of yellow makes for a really fun build. You know, it just kind of came together with like the parts that I had, and I think I had tried it a little bit with just alternating on another build, and this is where it really came together. The white trimming on stuff works really well with yellow, and this is definitely one of my favorites. So I've been to Mexico many times, Mexico City in particular, where you have colonial architecture. So some of these arched overhangs and things like that give it that touch. And that's not necessarily something you pick up from classic pirate theme. So.
Lots of different inspiration I think is cool. And then if we make our way through kind of this front row of buildings, maybe start with this one on the right and we can go down and some of the design inspiration there.
Sure. The first one up is the warehouse. The warehouse, I think I don't know, sifted through online images and sketched out my idea again. And some of the challenges here, I wanted a really rough, like a block base to it, next to my crane lift here. And the cart, I think, is a nice detail next to it as well. But you definitely have to get the, I can't remember the name for the beam to help you lift up into the upper floors, because I think most historical buildings would have had that, because you just aren't going to carry things up really steep, narrow stairs and ladders. So that was part of the inspiration on this one. And moving into the next one, I've got like a men's haberdasher inside there. You can't really see it, and it's not that easy to open it when it's in the layout. But trying to take advantage. Tile roofs are another one of those like challenges you pick away at and try different things for. Four-sided tile roof I'm still struggling with. There's probably some part out there that would help me, but that came together pretty nicely. My favorite does happen to be the tavern in the middle. This one actually opens up as kind of like a place set style. It would be cool to see inside, but once again, lifting them out and showing is a little bit more difficult. There's a lot of classic pirate motifs inside.
We've pulled out one of the buildings from the layout now, so if you want to open this up and take us through some of the details.
Sure, yeah. So this was built kind of like your classic playset, to fold out with a little staircase. And we've got a full tavern scene. Oh, I do see a guy that fell over, but we've got Broadside and his crew up here. We're pouring out our drinks down below. A nice chest of your classic pirate elements. And Redbeard sitting down on his own with his maps ready to go.
I love the ship's wheel hanging above him.
Yes, and if you'll notice, it's actually a broken part, so it works wonderfully for that. Yes, it looks kind of like a chandelier. I like that one. And I do enjoy the monkey from the ceiling grabbing bottles from our bartender here. And as always, I've got to hide a few rats around.
And down there, you got some guys just having a good time on the bottom level.
Yes, definitely. They're getting rowdy.
I like how you use the different wooden tile elements to create that floor kind of worn effect.
Yes, yep. And, some of that's just using what you got. And, I wasn't going to use anything too uniform. My style is add a little bit of noise in there to not look too plasticky or uniform.
When you're working on the interior of a build, do you kind of do the build and then decide what you're going to put inside it and based on what's fit, or does it go kind of level by level? How does that come together for you?
For this one, you have to respect how you're actually going to do hinges, but knowing that it was going to split apart like this and create sort of a unique, like 8 little areas, you can decide what you want to do with each area individually. Having a sliding out staircase was going to have a specific constraint to it as well. So, it's always a mix of constraint versus overall form and things like that. But the ability to have like little scenes like this, I think, is really cool.
Perfect. Thanks for pulling this out and opening up the building for us to look inside.
Then next up is my Black Dog Inn. Another fun one where you're trying to go tall with the Tudor style beams and stuff exposed. Didn't work as much on the interior of that, but some of the windows in the front were kind of a fun challenge to work on. The last one down the row is the gaming parlor. My little story here is that the officers have been playing all night, and their soldiers have long fallen asleep out in front. This one does have an interior as well that kind of shows the officers playing cards and things like that.
That's super fun and just representing all these different buildings, kind of the day-to-day things that the characters would be doing in them. But now, of course, we come to the large structure here. This is your church building. So what can you tell us about this one?
So this is kind of adapted from a church that I saw online that's in Brazil. So I'm looking more for that definitely North American, Spanish style, or Portuguese, I guess. So there's a lot of nice bright yellow again that works really well, but whitewashing and trying to capture the doors actually is one of my favorite parts of this one. The green with the tiles and plates to come out and give it texture, I think was a nice touch on that one. And I do like my bell towers actually. There's some brick-built bells in there. Yeah, this was a fun build. I like the roof too on this.
And again, it adds like some great color with that yellow, and so it really just makes the whole layout kind of pop with the different colors you incorporated here. And I think that's part of what attracts the attention. I'm sure as people are walking by and everything. Compared to a lot of historical builds, can tend to be much more in the browns and some of those types of colors. But I think this really catches your attention a lot more.
Yes, that's definitely part of the fun part of doing like Pirates and Lego. I mean, I don't know how historically accurate colors are, but when you think of that colonial style, there are a lot of bright colors and paint, and it is a fun aspect to be able to work with different colors to make it really pop on a layout.
Absolutely, and you've got a couple of other great builds over here as well that I wanted to talk about. So we can start with your Wolfpack build, which is not a theme that we see people tackle very often. So what made you want to do this build?
So really, a lot of the start of my castle building is around a creator in Poland who made these very nice custom flags. And so it's kind of weird, but that became the seed part for building up these castle motifs. It's actually the same for the lion castle next to it. But on the Wolfpack one, once again, I went to my drawing paper here and wanted something that would have that sort of visual lift upward from a guy showing up at a dock and the stairway up into the mausoleum. So my concept was that it was a mausoleum of a long gone leader of the Wolfpack, and they use it as a treasure hoard, and that's something that you can see from the back, but we can turn it around if you would like. But there is a treasure hoard underneath. The classic fortress for the Wolfpack was in a river, so I'm kind of using that waterfall around it as well.
That waterfall technique, it's very subtle on the sides, but it really just adds some different color, as well as I love the way you use the clear pieces there as the cascading water.
Yes, that was a nice pull from the Pick-a-Brick wall this year, and was able to use that in a way that I think worked really nicely. I'm pretty happy with that. I wish I had just had a lot more blue tile. That would have helped me.
And then this castle on the right is kind of more of the traditional castle style. One thing that catches my eye is some of the decorations on the horses and the knights here. So where did that come from?
So I had looked at Brick Warriors, who actually happens to be represented here, and I had a lot of their parts that I was just trying to customize and showcase. So that's actually a lot of what's going on there, is using those custom parts and trying to pair that with some custom-made fabric details as well to give us a more unique knight look. You think back to historical terms, knights didn't have a set uniform or anything like that. So I wanted each of those knights to be a little bit different and kind of assembled that way.
And then I like the way you incorporated the wooden elements with the stone of the castle and kind of the contrast of those two types of pieces.
Yeah, so when we go back and look at castles, a lot of them actually have wooden roofs, which is not the easiest color to replicate because you don't have as many volume or options there. So I was trying to get a wooden roof, and once again, castles are usually whitewashed, so being able to use white in there is actually a nice thing you can do as well. The balconies and things like that. Yeah, I'm trying to play with the colors and how things look in real life and pull it together. Keep it nice and tall so that you can look up at things as well.
Well, these are all excellent builds here. Thank you so much for all the work building these and bringing them out to the show. And then thanks for taking us through each one and kind of giving some of your inspiration behind it. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.